Mixing with my plugin of the week comes from Pulsar Audio. It's the Pulsar Primavera. This is a spring reverb emulation unit, or a series of 6 spring reverbs that have been emulated by Pulsar. They always make great plugins, and when I saw this come down the line, I hopped on it straight away, and it's absolutely worth a listen. So, in its essence, a spring reverb is a transducer on one end feeding a signal, an audio signal, through a spring, and then there's a transducer on the other end that collects the result and feeds it back, right? So you get a little feedback into the beginning of it. You get repeats. You can have multiple ones. You can adjust the tension. You could use different materials, different shapes. It doesn't have to be always spiral. There's all kinds of different things that will achieve different effects with it. And what they've done is they've expertly emulated 6 different units, and a couple of them they sort of tweaked into more ideal standards. But let's kind of go through it step by step because I think it's worth looking at. At the very beginning stages, we have a preamp. So they have a preamp so you can actually saturate the signal going into the spring reverb unit. This is often the case there's usually some form of a preamp stage, particularly on like older delay units, analog delay units like tape delays and things like that. Echo Rec is like a classic one with the preamp going in. It has a unique sound to it. But they give you 2 different preamp units, a tube or a germanium, which is basically like a transistor preamp. And this is modeled, I'm guessing, maybe after the RE201. I'm not entirely sure about that, though. What you'll see here is an LED, which will light up brighter as you create saturation with it. This is also coupled here with the mix control here, because it allows you to monitor just the preamp without the reverb. Or the reverb. So this wet-dry control is wet, but wet with the preamp. Otherwise, I guess there's no other reason to use it. Just bypass it at that point. This is assuming that you put it on a track. So if you put it on a send return, the preamp will still feed into the reverb. And in fact, I can kind of just do a quick thing here. If we have the input signal, it goes through that preamp stage. The signal splits. High pass, low pass filter, pre-delay, the spring modeling, so any one of the 6 selections. There's a width control, a ducking, which can be fed externally or from the internal sidechain, so the signal splits and goes in there for keying it. And then you have the reverb output, which mixes with the preamp output. So that mixer right there is this control right here. And then you have an output control. There's also a gain control, which they don't show on here, which is right in here, which is this volume control. So this controls the volume of the reverb. So you can mix in the amount of preamp amount that you want and then control the reverb levels sort of independent of that. All right, so that's the basics of it there. So that's a kind of an important one. High pass, low pass filter, so that's tailoring the signal that's feeding into the reverb. Now the different reverb chambers, or they're not chambers, canisters, tubes, what are they called? I don't know. The term will come back to me. You got 6 of them that you select. Tanks. There we go. And any one of the 6 reverb tanks you select will have different reverberation frequency responses and different sounds to them, and then you can sort of shape accordingly. Pre-delay controls the amount of delay going into the reverb. The tension here controls how tight or how tense you make the springs. 0 would be loose, 10 would be tightened up. So that definitely changes the character of the sound. Reverb time, so that would be your total reverb time. A lot of that has to do with the amount of feedback. Excitation, this is basically artifact that's created by feeding into spring reverb. So you feed in a sharp transient into it, it will create like a certain boinging kind of effect or response. And anybody who's had a guitar amp, right, you pick it up, you move it, you pound the top, you get the sort of explosion thing with the reverb. That's the base, in essence, what it is. But you can kind of wield that artifact or an amount of it in, and it will be different. Some of the chamber of the different selections here of spring reverbs will actually have a little bit of that kind of built in, so it's all relative to that. The width control goes full stereo to mono. There is one unit, the twang unit, which is always mono. So when it's mono, this will light up. Otherwise, all of the others will come up in stereo. You have a presence control. This pushes upper mids into the signal so you can kind of sort of articulate the presence frequencies a little bit. This sometimes works really, really well for vocals, and depending upon which spring reverb that you select will kind of add like a different type of character. In other words, it'll come across different based on the frequency response of the existing one that you bring in. There's a ducking control, which is really cool. There's a little monitor thing here, so you can listen to it. You can feed the signal in externally, giving the ability to, say, trigger the reverb ducking from another instrument. This can sometimes be helpful in certain sections. Maybe you have reverb effect on a guitar, and during the chorus section, another guitar comes in, and you want it to sort of dry up. You could have that key this so that it ducks the reverb during that section, and then you can select the amount of ducking or compression that occurs when you feed that in. You have the balance here between the pre and the verb. Now, if you're using an ascend return, you're probably going to be all reverb, because otherwise you're mixing in some of the dry with preamp saturation signal in there. You can even start by setting up the amount of saturation to begin with and then flipping the verb up. As I said before, the volume control actually controls the level of the reverb, not the overall output volume. So be conscious of that. And then so that you can, if you get the preamp level at a certain place that you like it, you can still control or add to or take away from the amount of reverb relative to that position. That's the basic idea of it. I think that's basically it. There's some additional settings here for oversampling, help balloons if you want to see what the individual tanks are. In fact, let's turn that on just so we could see. So we have twang, and twang, if you look in the top right, is the tank is our take on what we love about American tube amplifier spring reverb. So they sort of, took this as monophonic, since that's the way it would basically be coming through a guitar amp. Fine. That's all cool, but basically they idealized it a little bit rather than doing like a Fender reverb amp from the 60s or something, or whenever their first one came out. HR12 originally found in a vintage Japanese hi-fi device, right? So this is like thin. There's another one here that's a similar thing. So I think this one was part of I think they used to put spring reverbs in consumer electronics at that point, just to sort of add a little vibe to the sound. So I think that adds a little presence into it. That was the idea here. The SR202, loosely tensioned springs. This tank brings you the fluttery reverb sound of some beat up vintage spring reverbs. Okay. Tubby. This is like their tribute to vintage dub music sounds. All right. Well, okay, so this is the one that has a lot of chirping in it, which is what happens when you crank up the excitation. RE201, that's the roll-in unit. That's pretty straightforward. We probably all know that. And GBS is a British reverb. It's cleanest of the selection. It has both big lows and shiny highs. So this is the most full frequency of them. Maybe we'll start there. I'm going to turn off the help balloons just so that we don't have to be tortured with all of that. It drives me crazy. All right, let's have a listen. Little vocal here. We'll feed into it. That's probably a good place to start. Let's have a listen. Here, let me do this. Let me solo it up so we can really hear what's going on. Let's start here by going to the pre. Let's kind of get a little sense of the drive here.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny myself worth, but will deny you on the re-up.
Now this would be the signal feeding into the reverb, so you could hear this.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny myself worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what.
So it's a little too fuzzy on the top. We can kind of high pass filter that off, or low pass filter it off.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck.
All right, so if you got a basic thing there, we got the, let's just kind of go through some of the options here. I have a lot of pre-delay on here. Let's just kind of go through the pre-delay just to kind of get a vibe and just go through some of the settings here.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of.
You hear a little bit of the chirping in there. Again, it will be different with all of them. Here we can make it mono or...
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of sympathy.
So you can see how you have like quite a bit of a range here, particularly with the tension. You can really kind of clean up some of the flutteriness and kind of make it a bit more transparent, or you could add more character to it by pulling the tension back.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck.
Right, so that actually warms up the sound a bit, gives you like a little bit more movement, particularly in the low end. But, you know, and then it just sort of changes the way that everything actually recycles back in to the spring from the output back to the input. Pretty cool. Let's go through just some of the other tanks just so you kind of get a little bit of a sense of what they are. Maybe I'll take the drive back here a little bit. Reset this over here, pull the presence down, and let's just start with the raw tanks themselves, and let's just see what we got with them. Let's start with twang. This is mono.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of.
Probably not a good choice for this one, maybe better for a guitar.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of sympathy.
So you got a little bit of range there. Let's try the 202.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of Sympathy, tell me how.
It's amazing how much you can really change the character just with the tension control, right? Let's go to Tubby. This is going to be warmer sounding, as you would expect.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of sympathy. Tell me how.
Right, so a lot of different options here with this, just kind of working with you. Just like the tension control is really amazing. This is a real key to the unit here.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up.
All right, this is one where the saturation.
Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Don't you point your energy with your lack of sympathy. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty ways washed out on me. Tell me how can you walk free?
There's a lot of character in that. Probably not like suited necessarily for the vocal in this particular case, but kind of cool, like very mid-rangey focused option there. And then, of course, we got the GBS one, which we went through before.
Stuck between these harsh realities, don't wanna get caught up. I won't deny my self-worth, but will deny you on the re-up. Tell me, is this happening? It seems you really run out of luck. And the way you got me feeling, it ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems.
A lot of options, like the detail of it is really, really amazing. Now I have the 8 times over sampling on it, you know, to just help on that end. There's 2 ways to do it, because you can run it here with the oversampling so that when it exports offline, it'll do it at full sample rate quality, or in this case, same as this. But if your CPU is not allowing you to do that, you can do it at a lower sample oversampling rate, but it will still export at the higher one. But still, a very cool unit. I know I've done a number of Spring Reverbs reviews recently, and they're all a little different, all very cool in their own unique ways. But I think to me what stands out with this one is just the real detail of this, the way that they've captured the springs. It's almost like you can really, really hear it. Like, it's not fuzzy or like lacking in definition. Like, everything is just like super crystal clear, and you just really feel the essence of the spring reverb in a way that that I don't think you hear on almost any of the emulations that are out there. Really, really cool one. Pulsar Audio never fails to bring out great product, and this is no exception. Pulsar Primavera is the plugin of the week. Check it out. It's also a really good deal, very reasonably priced for the quality of the work they do. So way to go, Pulsar. Plugin of the week.